Hey, good, good morning, everybody. My apologies for being a little late today. Just working on putting together the last bits and pieces of today's show. And well, we have a lot to cover in a relatively brief period of time because I'm going to have to get out of here by about 10:15 today my time. So it's about an hour and 15 minutes. And I think it's enough to begin to go down the rabbit hole, as it were, and try to make sense as to where things are now, and have kind of a longer term view because that's what's going to be needed. Obviously, and I'm going to show you some things that are kind of interesting today. One of which is clearly going to be rumor based, but in light of what's gone on in the past, in the recent past, I think it's at the very least worth looking at and reporting. Good morning, Natasha. Good to see you. So I'm gonna kind of jump all over the place. I'm also going to go into the far past and give you a little taste of JFK and a speech that he gave after he visited the Alamo, and of course. Donald Trump, who is still president of the United States, by the way, went to Alamo, Texas yesterday. Not the Alamo, but Alamo, Texas, where there was a tweet by a judge in that area that said that he was not welcome there and that he posed a national security and local security threat. So this is the new America we're living in now. So let's get into who's here. There's Michael. Yes, Swalwell, impeachment manager. Well, we're going to talk about the impeachment today because it is the Sun Pluto conjunction, and we are headed into the new moon in Capricorn, which is a cold, officious, um, detached, very serious moon. So we've got the combination. It's the unholy trinity of the Sun in Capricorn, Pluto in Capricorn, and the new moon in Capricorn as well. Actually, it's going to be a bit balsamic, but headed towards new. This is the day that I was talking about. On Sunday night, I said that Wednesday and Thursday would be sort of the ultimate pitch of darkness, and I would not be surprised if Trump is impeached. I would not be surprised if that happens. Nicholas Grimm is in the house. What's going on, Nicholas? Teasia, what's happening? Mark Matheny, what's going on, Mark? You must be happy about your Rams and their comeback against the Seattle Seahawks. It's quite surprising. But I do think that the Rams are it's gonna. I think it's gonna come down to the Rams and the Bucks, and ultimately, I think Tampa is going to be in the Super Bowl. Although everything is pointing once again towards Aaron Rodgers and maybe the Aaron Rodgers and Pat Mahomes Super Bowl that we were promised last year, which was supposed to be a redux of the very first Super Bowl between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Green Bay Packers, which would have been the last Super Bowl. And maybe this indeed will be the last Super Bowl as it replays the participants of the first Super Bowl. But somehow I think Tom Brady and the Buccaneers will be in this thing simply because they're playing the game in Tampa, right? And Tom Brady is no longer a Patriot; he is a Pirate. He is a Buccaneer. He will work and do work for the highest bidder. Let's see. We've got Ashanti Edwards. Good morning. Jessica Rosen is here. Marlene McNicholas. Good morning to you, Marlene. Natalie Remington. Good morning. I was so afraid there would be an assassination attempt yesterday. No, I think they need Trump more alive so they could continue to turn him into a wicker man and continue to tar and feather and pillory Trump. He's more useful to them live. And this brings up a really interesting question about what happens to the media in a post-Trump world. Because I've been thinking about it, and there are a lot of ramifications about the media in a post-Trump world, which I'll talk about. Hey, what's going on, my man T. Jordan? Good to see you. Laura D is here. Carolina in the Pines. What's happening? Craig Corporon. Atlas. Good morning, Atlas. Taking time off from holding the world on his shoulders. CC Jones is here. Kraken release 2. Brenda Zarafan. Hello, Brenda. Nice to see you this morning. Michelle Taylor. Love. People are expecting fire today, but for their own reasons. Here I am knowing this conjunction is happening, followed by Mars-Uranus conjunction next week. Yep, they're piggybacking on the Patriots false flag. I would not be surprised if we see more of them. And let's see, we got MK's in the house. Hello, MK. Tamara Canine. Hello, nice to see you. Nancy Harding's here. Joe Dimitri, Uncle Glenn, my man Vanessa, Ian Barber. There's Lils, Mary Grether, Review Playlist, Double V. Well, you're welcome, Atlas. Let's see, who else we have here? I've never watched pro football, but I started avoiding it when they started crying for justice for an hour before the game. They're still doing that? No, it is completely integrated. Completely integrated. Ever since the George Floyd event, the NFL has become woke. Even Bill Belichick yesterday, when he decided to not accept the Freedom Award, was quoting woke scripture and verse. I never liked Bill Belichick. Excuse me. And Bob Kraft still hasn't done time for when he was down in that massage parlor down in Florida where he got busted in a big sting operation. Of course, he's never going to do time for that. Where they have these young Chinese girls basically trapped and are essentially sex slaves working in these little massage parlors for a rub and a tug. Let's see. There's Ryan. What's going on, Ryan? Did anyone see the PBS guy from Project Veritas? Yeah, I saw that. I think I'll try to find that. That's a good reminder, Miranda. I'll look for that. Pam Jerome from Michigan is here. There's Ralph. Morning, Ralph. London calling. Finca. Lynn. What's going on, Lynn? St. Anne City Farm. Hello from Dublin. Hi, Dublin. Dublin calling. I guess even woke people of all races get an opportunity to get CTE. I've been watching NFL games from like the 1980s and the 1970s on YouTube. It was a very different sport, let me tell you. A very different sport, and there was some. I think there was some scripting going on with the NFL in the 70s and the 80s, in the 90s, but nothing like it is now. Nothing. I mean, it is total WWE now. Let's see who else. We got Craig Simpson. What's going on? Hey, Craig. Hey, love to see you here, Craig. Good to see you. We need to hook up again. I miss chatting with you. Annie Brito, the wench with the wrench, is here. Teresa Blackburn. Yeah, the PBS guy got fired. How about that? He got fired. PBS is such horse shit. Let's see. Calling all my friends. Shannon Jones, Courtney Hutchinson. Hello, Courtney. Good to see you. FUB 77. High wind in North Idaho. Power off and on again. It's a tough place to have power off. There's my man Steve. What's going on? Major windstorm. There we go. Frank is corroborating the intense weather in the Idaho area. They want to impeach, so he's not eligible to run in 2024. That's right. I always think about how the Simpsons predicted Trump would be president. It would also be assassinated. Yep. Well, the Simpsons. We talked about this with the Simpsons, Emily and I, and how it's amazing how they know the script. You know, they know the script. And what's interesting is that they had that scene with him going down the escalator. Well, Trump actually recreated that. he made sure that he actually did that scene. Like there was a couple of takes and everything. Like he was kind of like following the Simpsons script in a weird way. Jennifer says, "I'm awake. Pluto moon prayers at 7:13." Yep. Let's see, who else do we have here? Anybody else? Did I miss anybody? Michelle Whistle. Craig says, yes, we'll do, but overwhelmed. Yay. And offline, a good deal as well. Sometimes offline is a good thing. Michelle, hey, Michelle from Oregon. Nice to see you, Michelle. What do you do with a drunken sailor? You guys ever see that movie, The Sand Pebbles, with Steve McQueen? That's a really good movie. Really good movie. To me, that's where really Steve McQueen becomes a star. Or do the script writers get Black and Steel from The Simpsons? It's an interesting question. I mean, if you go back to the Future 2, where clearly Biff is Trump. Biff is Trump in Back to the Future 2. And it's a really interesting scenario. And the scenario, of course, is that Biff discovers the time machine, which goes into the story with his uncle, John Trump, discovering Tesla's work and Tesla's plans. So Biff discovers the playbook for the time machine and is able to go back in time, and essentially he has a like a sports almanac with all the scores in it, and he's able to bet on the games based on who's going to win, and he becomes like stupidly rich by doing that. But I will say though that there is, I think, an anomaly with that. Just by going back in time, that Biff could even change the outcome of the games just by going back in time, and not every game would come out the same. That's my theory. How did I go with Ringo yesterday? Okay, let me get into the Ringo story. So the guy who was interested in Ringo came by yesterday, and we had to have a meet and greet. He had to look at Ringo. I had to look at him, and he was a super nice guy, super nice guy. Maybe a little bit older than me. He's got a big piece of property about 5 miles outside the city. He does a lot of work with plants. He's got a koi pond, and Ringo just went up to him and started to lick him. I'm like, okay, well, this is a good fit. So we talked, and he again told me the story about losing his German Shepherd about 4 months ago, and I thought, okay, this is going to work. So I rehomed Ringo, and I couldn't wait much longer because I was getting very attached to Ringo. Like, he was like really cute, really cute. And even though he was a pissing and shitting machine, I was able to get him to go to the bathroom outside more, because I was starting to pick up on his cues and get him out there and take care of business. And if I didn't have Rosie and Jasper, Ringo and I would have got on just fine, and he would probably still be here. But I think that it just wasn't a good mix for them. In particular, I mean, Jasper started to come around a little bit. Like, he would get up on his cat tree in the living room, and he would look down on Ringo. I think Jasper would have been ultimately okay, but it would not. He would not have been a part of the show, because Ringo would have been on my lap, and because last 2 shows I did, Ringo was on my lap, and this is kind of Jasper's domain. So I don't feel bad. I feel like that this guy got a really good dog, and he is somebody who has time for it too. Like, he works outside a lot. I don't. I work inside a lot. So it's a good fit. And I felt like I was able to facilitate kind of, I was the middleman for Ringo to get to a really, really good home. So, that chapter's closed, and I told him to send me a picture every now and then of Ringo. And if I get one when he's older, I'll send it along to you guys. Yeah, it was hard. He was, because he was really getting under my skin. That little guy was so damn cute, and he was falling asleep on my lap all the time, and he was an adorable dog, absolutely adorable. Um, let's see. I watched a movie on Prime last night called The History of Time Travel. They said it was a fake documentary. I think content is actually true in what is happening. When I was a kid, I was totally into this idea of time travel. That was my thing. I was obsessed with time travel. Any time travel movies, the time tunnel, whatever, man. I was totally into it. And I used to do this thing when I was I think around 7 years old, and on the schoolyard of where my grade school, and I'd have a group of kids with me, right, and I would like do this thing where we would spin around and get like super dizzy, and then I would take them into other dimensions and or other periods in time, and we would fight like bad guys in other dimensions and other periods of time. And we didn't fight each other. We were all fighting these kinds of invisible foes and invisible people. And I did that a lot. I was obsessed with like different dimensions and time travel and all that shit. Let's see. Bull mastiffs need a lot of exercise, but they like cats. Listen, if a dog is supposed to come into my life, like it's going to have to happen organically, and it's probably going to need to be an older dog because Ringo would chase after Rosie and Jasper. Like he was aggressive towards them. Like that, they were they were prey. They were not housemates. They were not housemates. So you wrote the TV show Sold Sliders 30 years early. I even did a play. I wrote a play in my head that we performed in front of the class. And it had to do with a lot of the stuff that I was working out on the playground. I swear to God, I think that was in the second grade. And it was interesting. It was definitely interesting. I was influenced by a lot of comic books. I read comic books. I was very into comics. I had a comic collection back in, I think, 1967, and then my father threw them out. I was really upset. He said, "You're living in too much of a goddamn fantasy world." You helped heal the plant man's hurting heart. I think so. I think so. Like I said, I was Mercury is the messenger of the gods. I was the messenger of the dogs. Will you be on the void tonight? Will I be on the void tonight? I'm not sure, cuz I'm not sure what you mean by that. I was Ringo's conduit for paradise. Yes, I know, right? I know. This guy's got a new start with a new Poochie and regenerative, and yes, healed his heart. You could tell that he was really heartbroken over the loss of his German Shepherd, who had been with him for 14 years, and then German Shepherds. Now, the thing about Ringo is that he's a Shepherd Malinois mix, so he's not going to have the same kind of hip dysplasia issues that I think straight Shepherds have. He may have other things, but I don't think he'll have that. So, but watching a dog going through, really bad hip dysplasia is very difficult to watch. I remember one time I was in San Francisco, and there was a guy who had one of those Irish setters, the Irish wolfhounds. It was one of those really big fucking dogs, and it was really, really sad. Oh my God, it was so sad. because this person was having to hold the dog up with its hind legs while it was walking on the marina green. And I just looked at that. I would go, you cannot let this dog live like that. Like, you cannot enable this dog like that. You know, your dog is hurting. You have to put your dog down. It's one of the hardest things to do. But watching your dog, you know, have dealing with hip dysplasia is really it's crippling. It's watching them not being able to do anything or take care of themselves or be able to go outside and go to the bathroom. It's a really, really difficult thing to do. Um, Ringo chose you to murder him, I guess, you know, I guess anyway. Um, Hello, Scott Byron. Good to see you. Good witchies here. We need to visit Ringo next Hill Country Gathering, wake up his owner, crash the ranch. Well, that's funny. You know, he came into my house with a mask in his hand. He said, mask? I said, no, don't worry about it. So this is how people are trained now. I think he was kind of relieved that he didn't have to wear a mask. Don't they have little chariots for dogs with bad hips? They do, but I don't think it's really fair. You know, I think that there's the nature rule. And if a dog can't take care of itself in nature in the wild, then I think it's probably time to, you know, help the dog into a transition. Because if you know, put the dog into the wild, they wouldn't be able to fend for themselves. They wouldn't be able to, you know, take care of themselves. They would be prey very, very quickly. And I think that should be the demarcator for, you know, and there's some truth to it with people as well. You know, I think that there's a time when people, you know, are not going to be, they can't really fend for themselves. Now, luckily, there are these things called firearms, which which are the great equalizer in a lot of ways. But I'm not even sure how much longer we're going to be able to count on them with this current administration. That is sad. Once you go through an animal being truly ill and understand they will suffer until their bodies literally fail because they love you. Yeah, so I had a dog for 14 years. And, you know, when he got to the end of his life, you know, you get to that moment, it's like, geez, I'm going to have to put him down. And whenever I would get to that point, he would rally. It was really like kind of weird. He would rally. I'm like, wow, gee, look at this. He's actually, you know, coming around. And there was this one event one night where it was very clear that it had to happen. And you know, he would have to go to the bathroom sometimes in the middle of the night. And I lived in an area that was pretty remote and in nature, and I would open the door and sliding glass door, and he would go outside and he'd go to the bathroom, and he would, and again, it wasn't like he was pooping on anybody's lawn. I mean, there were freaking sequoia trees, you know, growing next to my deck, and he would come back in. And then one night it was a really bad stormy night, and you know, he went outside, and then there was like a kind of like a little bridge over a small, like maybe 6-foot drop that led into my little like cabinet area. And he fell off that bridge, and he wasn't hurt, but I'm like, okay, that's it. He can't do this anymore. And then there was just days later that I wound up putting him down. One of the hardest days of my life. And you guys know what I'm talking about. All right. Why don't we we'll do a little invocation here, and then we'll get into some of the news of the day, which is not really great, although there is a very interesting story that I do want to bring to your attention, and it's and again, I can't corroborate this, and this has nothing to do with Trump and what might happen, but it's an interesting story. Okay, here we go. Dear blessed Holy Mother, Father God of the great central sun, within the universal light, which is the light of Yeshua, Sananda, Emmanuel, and all the great avatars who have come to serve on this planet for the greater will and the higher will of the Most High. We ask that only the highest and best information truth, wisdom, and intelligence come through this channel at this time for everybody. And I just want to say a special prayer today for all of our animal friends who are here to be with us and help us and comfort us and guide us through all these times in our lives, and that they remain safe and that they remain sacred vestiges of our relationship with the natural world, the bridge between us and the place where we are originally from, the wild. And in a time where it feels like more and more restrictions are being meted out to the human species, may our four-legged friends and may all the creatures in nature be safe and sanctified and blessed so that they can remain our companions through the darkest of times. If there's any karmic residue in this stream, let it be cleansed, purified, and clarified and removed at this time. There we go. Yeah, animals are. I've always loved animals. They're the best. I used to have fish when I was a kid. I was really into guppies, and I thought I could raise guppies and sell them. That was my business model. It didn't work so well. All right, where do I want to start? Well, why don't we start with the mob madness? Let's start with the mob madness, and I'll try to work to a place where we can have some harmonic resolution. Okay, so I'm gonna show you. This is the fallout now from where we are, and now the GOP, who basically abandoned Trump and thinking that they were going to do the right thing and go along with the program. Well, they are an endangered species. So Walmart halts GOP contributions for electoral objectors. Isn't this interesting? Walmart, the world's biggest retailer, joined other major companies in indefinitely suspending donations to U.S. lawmakers who voted against President-elect Joe Biden's election certification. Yeah, we talked about this yesterday, didn't we? The Arkansas-based company said Tuesday, in light of last week's attack on the U.S. Capitol, its political action committee is indefinitely suspending contributions to those members of Congress who voted against the lawful certification of electoral college state electoral. This is a bunch of horse shit. It's total horse shit. It joined other firms such as JP Morgan Chase, Alphabet's Google, Union Pacific, and withholding contributions from all members of Congress rather than targeting those who opposed Biden certification. At least they're broad-based. The announcements indicate some corporate donors, which usually give money to Republicans and Democrats alike, are reassessing their strategy after supporters of outgoing Republican President Donald Trump attacked the Capitol last week. Now, again, this is a very broad-based tar and feather approach to what happened. We know that there was fuckery going on, major fuckery going on. I think it was Frank. Frank sent me a video, and he sent it to me via text. Let me see if I can find this thing. It was on Epic Times. If I can find how long they're going to be around, who knows? I don't know. Pompeo is going to step down next week, by the way. Let me see if I can find this thing. Senator Tim Scott opposes to impeaching Trump. Well, if they do impeach Trump, I think, I'm going to tell you right now, I think it would be good to impeach Trump because it would definitely create more animosity. Go ahead, impeach him. Absolutely impeach him. Florida State Representative calls on Governor DeSantis to divest from big tech over censorship. DeSantis is interesting. He's a Taurus, and he will not be moved easily. So Florida, you're fairly lucky, although he is on the vaccination side of things. But at the very least, he's kept your state as open as possible. I can't find that video. Frank, if you have a link to that video and you want to put it in chat, I'll play it because it's an interesting video in that there's one guy, you know what? I may get dinged again. I may get dinged again for playing the damn video. Let me just kind of summarize the video. There is a guy who is wearing like a flap hat, right? He is wearing a flap hat and he's essentially agitating the crowd. And he's next to supposedly who Ashley Babbitt is. And then the guy who's wearing the Gadsden flag around his neck gives him a helmet to smash the window. So he takes off his flap hat and starts smashing the window. Smashing the window, smashing the window, smashing the window. John L. Sullivan, he posted the link. Frank posted the link. Let me see. Videos on Crossroads YouTube channel. Let me see if I can find it. I'm not going to play the whole thing. Let me go to YouTube. But I'm going to show you the guy, and it is. Here we go. Okay. Oh, so this is Joshua Phillip, who I believe is with. He's with Epoch Times. Okay, so I'm gonna show you the a still from it. Okay. So let me see. All right. So this is from W. Masako Ganaha, who is a journalist and somebody who broke this thing down. And I'm just going to show you some stills here. Keep in mind now, Jaden X is John L. Sullivan, or John Sullivan, the guy who is a BLM agent, probably a COINTELPRO person who might actually work for the FBI or one of the other alphabets. So this is the guy right here wearing the furry flap helmet. Okay, now we have two guys here who seem to be Capitol Police and maybe a third here. This looks like a woman. And they're going to abandon their post. Okay, they're going to abandon their post. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stop the share for a second, come back here because I just want to do the stills on this thing so you can see it. I don't really want to play the video. Okay, so now I'm going to show you Gadsden flag guy, and he is here, right? He is here. This is, I believe, the hallway behind them, the stairwell behind them. Now he will hand Buffalo Flap guy a helmet to begin to smash this thing with. Let me just get to the next still. Okay, so now you can see, I'm going to establish his presence here. Because in some of the other video shots, he's to the left of Buffalo Flap guy. But now here he is. He's right here. Capitol Police are here. Now the Capitol Police are going to abandon their position. They'll abandon their position, which is important. It's an important element here to this. So here's the next frame, and I want to show you, like, they are gone. They are gone. And the smashing of the windows now begins. Like, they have abandoned their post. Why did they do that? Why did they do that? Well, it's probably because they were in on it. That's why. They let them do it. This is nothing that isn't... all right, now here we go. Now here's where the Buffalo Flap guy has received a helmet from Gadsden flag guy. And now he's using the helmet to smash the window. And again, Jaden X is John Sullivan. So he is videotaping this from his position in the corner. This guy right here seems to be the handler for the entire event. And nobody has identified who this guy is. And nobody has answered the question as to why the Capitol Police left and abandoned their post. So now he's using this helmet to smash the hole in this glass. And this glass, by the way, is pretty strong glass, because they're having to use a lot of force with this glass. And this guy's not a Trump supporter. I'll tell you that right now. He's definitely not a Trump supporter. So what's going to happen is that, let me get back there, is that you're going to see him eventually. That's the same photo. You're going to see him eventually leave. So now here's the first frame where the lone gunman begins to make his appearance, right? This is the first frame right here. And it's after Buffalo Hat Guy had smashed the window. Now, what's interesting is that there have been a lot of arrests around this so far, more than any other Antifa or BLM shit. I'll tell you that right now. But Buffalo Hat Guy has not been one of them. John Sullivan was arrested, but he was released. Okay, so here we go. Here's the next frame where Buffalo Hat Guy can clearly be seen. Clearly be seen. He's got pointy little ears. And he's getting ready to push the window through. Now, I thought she might have been a Capitol Police officer. I don't think she is, but she's definitely not a MAGA person. She's definitely not a Trump, quote unquote, Trump supporter. So he's getting ready to finish the job. Okay. And let's go forward a little bit. All right, so now that the window has broken, all right, this is supposedly, okay, so now that the window is broken, I'll show you what's going on here. And it's not long after that Ashley Babbitt is supposedly shot and then killed. So Gadsden Flag Guy is now moving away. And this is from a different angle, the Resistance video, and I think the Resistance is actually an anti-Trump group. So now here he's getting ready to actually leave. Like, he's performed his duty of smashing the window, riling people up, okay? And he's getting ready to leave. So now apparently whatever has happened to Ashley Babbitt has happened. And then you can see Buffalo Hat Guy looking down, mouth agape. There's Kyle Rittenhouse. They're looking at her. And then the next scene you'll see is Buffalo Hat Guy putting on a helmet. And what's he doing? He's exiting the scene. So here come the stormtroopers. Meanwhile, these useless turds have moved to the back. They abandoned their position. Now here come the stormtroopers, and there he goes. He's on his way out. And he changes clothes after everything happens. Right? He changes clothes. So he's the one that gets everybody completely agitated. He smashes the window, and then he heads down the stairs. And if you're these guys, why aren't you detaining everybody who was a part of this? Right? Why aren't you detaining everybody here? Like, that should have been the first order of business, and not let anybody get out unless they were told to let certain people go. So then let's see what else we have. So there's any other footage that's, yeah. So this is where he's actually beginning to change clothes. And you can see him stop. And then he's going into his backpack now, and he's going to change clothes. He's going to be a different person when he exits the building. All right. And let's see if we have any other interesting footage. Now she gets into this guy, this character, John Sullivan, who was there, and he was released. Like, this guy was there, and he was arrested, and he was released. There he is. And what's interesting is that a lot of the cell phones and the video sticks, or the sticks that hold up the cell phones, this is really something that the supposed left and Antifa specialize in. I think this guy is a lot like a COINTELPRO guy from the 1960s and the 1970s, where the FBI would infiltrate, the Black Panthers, or they would infiltrate the Weather Underground. But at that time, they were doing it to disrupt their operations. Like, Larry Grathwohl worked for the FBI, and he was and he was a member of the Weather Underground. So I think this John Sullivan character is probably a version of COINTELPRO. I don't think he's operating on his own. And we know that the FBI, through Peter Strzok and uh, James Comey, have really been a weaponized leftist group for a while now. And it's quite interesting that they're very keen on arresting and identifying all these people who supposedly were a part of this rally insurrection in the White House, in the Congress, and yet they really weren't able to do a whole hell of a lot with the whole BLM and Antifa group, right? So there you go. I just wanted to show you that video because it's very easy to whitewash this thing and just say that, you know, this whole event was led by, Trump supporters and Q people and MAGA people because that's what they want to do. And they're not going to sit down and really break down the narrative. They're not going to tell you about John Sullivan, who was there. They're not going to break down that bit of really important video information that guy was basically playing a role. He was agitating the crowd. He smashed the window. He skulked out, changed his clothing, and then he left. They're not going to tell you about that. Those details are far too troubling because they just want to go for the big, broad, ugly headline so it will continue to support their narrative. And this is not going to end well. It is not. It's not going to end well because you can't do that. It's. I mean, you can, but you can't. I mean, there are spiritual laws that are being violated here, and ultimately, they will kick in, and it will catch up to them. And even if we have a Biden-Harris administration, it is. I don't think it's going to go well at all. And they may try to do sweeping reforms and gun control and the whole 9 yards, and they may try to bring in the reset, but it's not going to go well because you've got 80 million people, probably more than 80 million people. Those are just 80 million people that voted for Trump. There's probably another, 5 to 10 million people on the side that once they see where this is going, they're going to have real second thoughts about what they voted for, what they believed in. Now you're talking about 100 million people. And what would the left's solution to all this be? Well, you go back to the Weather Underground and Larry Grathwold, and what he talked about was how they openly said that they would have to either re-educate or kill 50 million people. This is what the Weather Underground said. I'm not making this shit up. So don't think that that's not in their plans or that's not in their sights. And they can easily use COVID-19 and the vaccine and the mask to essentially target people who are not going to play ball with them and get them off to these FEMA camps that are supposedly there to help you quarantine. And guess what? They may not actually be there to do that at all. So we're in a time of really tremendous flux. And a lot of this depends on how quickly the left decides that they're going to, bring in their anti-terrorist bill, the new civil rights bill. They're going to have a whole bunch of stuff that they've been working on now for the last 2 to 3 years in anticipation of this moment. And it's going to be, interesting to see how the Senate is going to want to play ball. You're going to have somebody who just grovels like Mitch McConnell. And apparently now Mitch McConnell hasn't spoken to Trump in days and he's furious with Trump. And like, fuck Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell was never anybody on my radar. It's like, whatever. None of these people were ever on my radar. I never really got into politics at any level. I mean, I remember the first time I saw Newt Gingrich, I wanted to puke. I could just tell that guy he reeked of just, corporate crony, capitalistic, garbage. And I'm not even a leftist, but I could smell a rat a mile away. And Newt Gingrich has done his best to somehow rehabilitate his image in the last few years by, supposedly supporting Trump and supporting this idea of the republic, et cetera, et cetera. But I've just never been into it, and only because of the fact that it became almost like a pit bull fight for the last 4 years that I began to pay attention. And I began to pay attention really when Trump was um, on his way to getting elected, because there were some interesting things happening astrologically and particularly with Trump that grabbed my attention. During the Obama administration, it was like, okay, well, I guess I was somewhat politically motivated because I could see what was happening and it wasn't great. He was basically turning the country against itself. When all the stuff with Trayvon Martin and all those events that happened afterwards, the Michael Brown stuff, which again appear to be clearly orchestrated, some of which happened in a way that's pretty unfortunate. There was never any attempt on his part to bring the country together. Never, not once. And instead, what he did is he supported the right to quote unquote protest because it's American. And even when the protests in a city like Baltimore, when the Freddie Gray thing happened, and the mayor and the district attorney of Baltimore just said, "Hey, we're just going to let this shit happen. We're going to let it burn." That was okay, right? That was okay. It was okay to do that. It was okay to start burning down the black neighborhoods. It was okay to assault people coming out of a Baltimore Orioles game. It was okay to do that, but clearly it wasn't okay to do whatever happened on the 6th. But we know this to be true. We know that we know this to be true. We've seen the quote unquote hypocrisy in action. So I want to show you, this is how deep now they're going. And to me, this reminds me of what happened post 9/11. Post 9/11, they had all the so-called Arab terrorists. And this is on yourdestinationnow.com. So these are all the people that are being arrested. This is a guy, Bradley Ruxdale, Chicago CEO, Suburban Tech Company. He issued a groveling apology after being charged by the DOJ, along with 12 others, in a sweeping indictment. He said it was the single worst decision of my life. He was fired from the company he worked for, Consignia, who said his actions did not align with their stance as a company. I guess he was in Washington, D.C. You got Nicholas Oakes, who's connected with the Proud Boys. This looks like a picture right out of the Weather Underground. I swear to God, I've never been into the Proud Boys, by the way. I've never been into the Proud. I just thought even the name just sounds a little fishy, if you know what I mean. He was busted. Right, lawless facial recognition. No problem busting these people. Here's a retired Texas cop who was on the floor of the Senate. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Larry Rendell Brock Jr., 53. He was arrested in Texas. Brock's family members and a former Air Force comrade had painted a concerning picture of the veteran, one of a man who's become increasingly radical and influenced by white supremacy in recent years. Really? Has he really been influenced by white supremacy? Now all of a sudden, this is a white supremacy symbol. This guy does not look like a Trump supporter, sorry. Here we go. They've got all the markings, don't they? They've got the skull. They've got the so-called no, it's the OK sign. That's the white racist sign. This guy, Douglas Sweet, Hudgens, Virginia, was held in jail for 8 hours and then released. He said, I didn't go with any malice of intention of malice of those that committed those fights, the tear gas and stuff, and just, throwing stuff at police. That wasn't in my game plan at all. Asked if he has any regret being involved in a riot where 4 people died, Sweet said, from our actions come reaction. The white supremacist rally in Charlottesville. That wasn't the white supremacist rally, whatever. Then there's this guy, Doug Jensen from Des Moines. I think this is where Buffalo Q Shaman shows up right here. Apparently he's been arrested, having led the mob against Eugene Goodman. Who's Eugene Goodman? I don't know who Eugene Goodman is. This guy was arrested. This is the guy who put his feet on Nancy Pelosi's desk. There he is. He's having a fine moment. Richard Barnett. There's Jake Angeli Chansley, who is on a hunger strike because he can't get organic food in jail. Well, apparently, a judge has ruled that he should be fed organic food. How about that? This is the guy who supposedly runs off. Doesn't this guy look like JP? Awakening with JP. Doesn't it look like him? It's not him, though. But again, they've got all the... I mean, a lot of these guys, I think, are just like COINTELPRO. And then here's West Virginia delegate Derek Evans. Now, this guy is a state representative of West Virginia. And not only was he busted, he had to resign from his position. Derek Evans was charged on Friday. He's shown left in a Facebook Live from the right and leaving court. And then here's another guy, Eric Munchell. And then you've got a bunch of other not pictured but charged. Isn't this amazing? Isn't this amazing how quickly they were able to come up with this list? But there was no list for the BLM or the Antifa riots. And there were riots, not protests. Camp Auschwitz guy. He's the most despised member of the mob. Shockingly, he's not yet been arrested. Gee, I wonder why. Now here's Ali Alexander, who apparently is on the run, also known as Sammy Davis III. This is a guy who's very prominent in Stop the Steal. Here's a guy, Will Pepe, was suspended by his boss and is now being investigated by the FBI. Here are 2 cops, NYPD and North Carolina officers, who posed for a Facebook photo inside the Capitol but say they did nothing wrong. I think a lot of these people are useful dupes, which is what happens in a society where people are used and manipulated. So, again, they're really good at identifying and labeling and figuring out these people, but over the summer, not so much. Not so much. What is this here? Hold on. Buffalo Hat Guy video above. We should be reading the White House page for actions. I had a Zero Hedge article yesterday saying that the CEO of PBS thinks that the Trump supporters should be removed. Yeah, so I'll play you that video. since you guys are talking about it. Let me see if I can find it. Here, I'll show you guys. So apparently now this guy no longer works for PBS. And I'll show you. And this is where their heads are at, right? His name is, he's the principal counsel for PBS. So I guess he's like a lawyer. So here we go. Watch what he has to say.
Anyone Biden wins, you go through all the Republican voters and Homeland Security will take the children. And we'll put them into re-education camps.
Amen.
And these times which are unique. Trump is close to him.
What are we going to do if we don't like it? It doesn't
Go to the White House and throw Molotov cocktails. These kids who are growing up knowing nothing but Trump, for 4 years, you gotta wonder what else they're gonna be like. Are we raising a generation of intolerant, horrible people, horrible kids? Enlightenment camps.
Right.
They're nice. They have Sesame Street characters in the classroom, and they watch PBS all day.
I'm gonna go home and watch it.
Dumb. Most people are dumb.
It's good to live in a place where people are, educated and know stuff. And can you imagine if you lived in one of these other towns or states where everybody's just stupid?
What's great is that COVID is spiking in all the red states right now. So that's great.
Why do you think so?
Because either those people that come out and vote, Trump, go to the red states, or a lot of them are sick and dying. PBS has like real news. But CNN doesn't have real news anymore. It's just talking talking about Trump all day long.
I can't stand it. I mean, every once in a while I look at Fox News and it makes me want to throw up after 20 minutes.
It's all this Joe Biden shit and all that. Joe Biden, scam, which is all made up. It's all ridiculous. And they are pushing it so hard. It's unbelievable.
So do you guys just ignore it?
Yeah.
So he's done. He's gone. They've dropped his ass. They've kicked him to the curb. You can't make statements like that, even if you're on the radical left, right? You cannot do that. Apparently, there is a limit, and about rounding up people's kids and putting them in camps seems to be, at least for now, a line that shall not be crossed. And it's really interesting because, people like Michael Beller, they cannot stand, it's not Trump, they can't stand the people that voted for Trump. They think that they have an intellectual and moral high ground that is far more evolved and far more enlightened than the people who have, and Trump is a symbol, okay? He's just a symbol. He could have been named, I don't know, Smith or Jones. And if that person stood for theoretically the values that these people have been crying for years, it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered what his name was. And it's that in and of itself is clear that it's the supporters and the deplorables, the unwashed masses that these people detest. And Tucker Carlson did a piece on this last week, and I thought he really just nailed it. He totally nailed it. And what he nailed was that the people that demonize the deplorables or demonize the remnants of the working class, middle America, they are terrified that they will end up like them, meaning that they will end up in a position in which they're jeopardized, that their careers would be on the line, that they could be close to being homeless. So they pledge allegiance to the God that will support their position, support their point of view, support their livelihood, and support their lifestyle. And the order followers are not far behind. You know, the order followers are the people who impose the rule of law. They'll do the same thing. It's the same thing because they'll know that, hey, on the other side of this, you got that, and they don't want to be that. They do not want to be that. So at the very least, you know, he's out of work for PBS, but somebody will hire him. Somebody will come in and say, hey, look, you know, you got buffaloed. You got buffaloed there. Don't worry about it. We got you back. He'll land on his feet. He'll just go work for somebody else, and he'll be senior counsel for someone else. And he'll walk through the door of his new office, and there'll be a standing ovation. But nobody will ever dox him. Nobody will ever go to his house and demand that you know, he never work again, or that his children be taken away from him because he's an unfit parent, because he's wishing ill on his fellow Americans. Right? No, that'll never happen, at least not in this lifetime. But it's you know, it's an important look into sort of the extreme version of our reality at this point in time. I wanted to give you a bit of information here. So this is something that I cannot verify, but I'm going to share with you. And this has to do with Peter Strzok. Now, this is from GLP, which is, you know, it's an interesting site. And it's a site where it's a hangout. Like, this is a spook hangout. And there's information you can get from GLP, and there's information that you will not be able to post. I mean, there's a lot. It's like a landmine, this website. But you can get some interesting things every now and then. So this is a post that says, I live in Northern Virginia, very near to where Peter Strzok lives. I know this because most of the deep state scum had their addresses revealed on page 1 of Carter Page's recent lawsuit, Comey, Page, McCabe, etc. Today, around 12:30 p.m., so this was on the 12th, a huge group of Fairfax County police cars, accompanied by Fairfax motorcycle cops, a few Fairfax County sheriff cars, and a couple of military-style armored vehicles like Hummers or SWAT, shut down Main Street for about an hour. There were also 3 Fed helicopters circling overhead for nearly an hour above the Leos working on the ground. The place on Main Street where this happened is very close to Peter Strzok's house. It seemed like a lot of firepower, and it was very obvious that somebody was getting arrested. Nothing like this ever happens around here. Okay, so I wanted to show you a few pictures. So apparently, this was the scene in Northern Virginia. So it's 1:07 p.m. January 12th. This is the guy who posted this. And then I don't know if this is Strzok's house or not, but there seems to be something going on there, which is remotely interesting. Now, I can't verify it, but you've got somebody who lives in the area, somebody who took some photos, and is a witness to an entire city block being shut down. This is also the 3rd day in a row that Nancy Pelosi has not been seen at Congress, in the Congress. So I think it's the 3rd day that they've had a speaker pro tem. Also, you haven't seen Bill Clinton for a while. There has not been a Bill Clinton sighting for at least a month, and he usually shows up. Also, there hasn't been a Hillary sighting. Now, there have been Hillary tweets or been comments, theoretic from Hillary, but these people have not been seen. Now, I'm not saying that they've been arrested, but I think it's worth noting. It's definitely worth noting. And the other thing too is that Kamala Harris still has not given up her Senate position. Hasn't given it up yet. And I'm not saying that this whole thing is going to flip and we're going to be going into Trump being in the White House on the 20th. I'm not saying that. But there are enough anomalies now where things are mildly interesting at that level. I say, but the Strzok thing is definitely interesting. And again, I'm just giving you what I was able to pull and kludge together. So that there may be more coming out around that over the next 24, 48 hours. I wanted to talk a little bit about color revolutions. And because clearly we're in one, and we've been in one for a while now, we know this. But there was one color revolution that didn't work. And that was in Egypt. And in Egypt, they decided to do a couple of things. This is how color revolutions are staged. First of all, you starve people. That's how you get people to turn on their beloved leaders. You starve the people out. So in Egypt, what they did is they raised the price of flour because bread is like a big staple in the Egyptian diet. And so by raising the price of flour, it basically priced people out from being able to produce, bread for their bakery or their carts, and adding the meats to the bread, because the bread is filler, right? The bread is a lot of filler. And in a culture where you don't have a lot of meat, you have a lot of filler to go along with the meat. So this is what started the color revolution, was they raised the price of flour. Now, Mubarak, who had been a long time operative for the United States in that area, was being forced out because the people were turning on Mubarak. And who was there at the time of the reign of Mubarak? It was the Muslim Brotherhood. And who did we have as president of the United States of America? Muslim brother number one, Barack Obama, who was a Muslim. And the idea was to install the Muslim Brotherhood. Well, something happened along the way. You know what happened along the way? The military in Egypt said, fuck no. The military said, no, that's not going to happen. They made an independent decision, and the Muslim Brotherhood, which, by the way, is an MI6 operated group and has been for a long time, did not come to power. Didn't come to power. That was a color revolution that did not work. So is there a possibility? Is there a chance that somehow the U.S. military will step in and stop this so-called color revolution? It's about the only chance there is at this point. And what we know about the U.S. military, according to Kay Griggs, is it's not great. It's not great. You're dealing with a bunch of people who have, at a high level, contracts with defense contractors, Rand Corporation and McDonnell Douglas and Grumman and all these, they're at a high level. It's not a very good representation of the so-called greatest country on the planet. But at this time, probably about the only thing that stands between us and not just 4 years, 8 years, 12 years. I would say at the very least 8 years. 8 years of Democrat, at the very least, 8 years of Biden Harris. Although, here's what I think ultimately. I think that this thing is the tide is definitely going to turn. It is definitely going to turn. And it may not turn tomorrow. It may not turn next week. It may not turn next month. I see really when Saturn moves into Aries and it conjuncts Neptune, that is a major turning point. So we've got to basically go through two Saturn cycles. One with the Saturn Jupiter conjunction in, well, at the very least, at the beginning, at the onset, the Saturn Jupiter conjunction in Aquarius, which is a real tug of war, right? It's a tug of war of who's going to sort of predominate. Are we going to, is the Saturnian and the expansion of the Saturnian principle of control over the masses, which is Aquarius, going to predominate? Or will it be the Jupiterian kind of rise to action and getting more organized vis-a-vis Saturn? This is where we are right now. There's no real clear path at this point in that, because it's a dynamic interchange. But to think that all of a sudden they're going to flip a magic switch and all of a sudden we're going to be in the fifth dimension and we're going to ascend or whatever during this time, I don't think is really the case. You're going to witness this. It's not even really a tug of war, but it's more of a swirling kind of interchangeable dynamic of kind of novelty, power, and control. And when you're dealing with Uranus as kind of an operative principle, it's very hard to predict. It's very, you can expect the unexpected. That's what you can expect. And for a lot of people who want resolution and say, let's get this shit over with, this is a really good time for you to learn how to deal with more chaos in your own way. I want to leave you with something. Speaking of chaos and the unexpected, this is kind of a mind blower. So I'm going to show you. I believe it's a woman, because I think that this person is they're probably trans. This is a trans person, and we're getting into, again, this weird shifting dynamic of Jupiter, Saturn, Aquarius. You would think that this person would be like, quote unquote patriot or whatever. Well, I think they kind of are, but this is somebody who is a trans person who is going after Chuck Schumer on the streets of New York City. I'm going to show this to you. It's really interesting. So this is from C-SPAN, and welcome to the new America. Welcome to the new America, where one of the most patriotic people, supposedly, right, is anything but what a patriot would consider patriotic. Let's check this out.
Anti-Semite. I am glad I didn't think that the Trumpsters had it in them. I didn't think the conservatives did. But you know what? You racist socialists can dish it out, but you can't take it. And remember this, Adolf Hitler was a socialist. And that's exactly who you follow. You're nothing but a coward. See, you kind of need to get. I actually got sexually excited over it. That's how much I loathe you. That's how much I like what they do. And like Nancy Pelosi said, people do what they do. After all, she doesn't care about monuments, and neither do I. And where the First Amendment doesn't say that you have to protest peacefully and politely. As long as there's outrage and unrest in our hearts, there's going to be unrest in these streets. I don't give a shit whether you believe me. You're nothing but a cracker. That's all you are. You're a racist cracker. You can get shot. Look, you got protection. Why don't you tell them to stand down? Did you tell the Capitol Police to stand down? Did you tell them to stand down? Answer the question. No, stand down. Did we remove the police to stand down? In Kenosha, Seattle, Portland, Chicago. Boston, New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. And you know what? These Trump supporters are going to go to your house. They're going to go to Pelosi's house. They'll destroy her vineyards. And I will be right there to support them. Don't you say it's enough? No, shut up. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. This is a racist. He's an anti-Semite. He said if you criticize Obama, you're a racist, but he criticized him against the Iranian deal. Not only are you a racist, Schumer, you're a hypocrite. Take your hands off me 6 feet. 6 feet. No. 6 feet. Stand down. Stand down. Stand down. You can dish it out, but you can't take it. Now you found out you're not immune. Now it's not fun, is it? See, I'm just one voice here right now, but trust me, if you do this to 75 million Americans, try to put us in jail, you're going to have to hire 175 million to guard us. Move back. Take your hands off me. Take your hands off me. All right? I'm a transsexual and I'm a gypsy, which makes me a minority of color. Not do it. It's not going to look good for you, Schumer. It's not going to look good. You're nothing but a sellout to the Jews.
Okay, let's.
That is a fucking mic drop right there. That is the moment for 2021. Right there. I am a transsexual. And as soon as she said that, like, wow, you know, she had the shields up Star Trek moment, right? Oh my God. That was my, did you hear Schumer? Can we remove her? Can we remove her? I think I said no. I love it. You're a traitor. She's probably Jewish too. You're a traitor to the Jews. That's what she said. My God. There is your Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius right there. Right? Getting it all worked out in a weird miasma of, you know, confluence on the streets here. By the way, did you see that she was in front of a building that was 777? Did you see that? Did you see that? When Trump took office, the day that he took office, he was 70 years old, 7 months, and 7 days. That's a fact. On the day that they inaugurated Trump, it was 777. And she was standing right in front of that building, 777. So we have our new Paul Revere, a Jewish trans person from New York City who managed to have the stones to call Chuck Schumer out and handle his little goons and paid thugs. God bless her. God bless her. He's on the cover of the National Enquirer going through a divorce. Well, you know, I think a lot of people are going through a divorce now. I think it's a collective moment. Just saying they should all be prepared for more female wrath headed their way. Yeah. Isn't that something? So, yeah. Numbers have meaning. 777. Is there a link to that? She's my fucking, I know. Isn't that great? Should we play it as an encore? Why don't we play it as an encore? I'm gonna play it as an encore. Let me just see if I can find that thing again. Where is it? Where is it? Here we go. Let's play one more time. This is worth another. Here, let's see what old Chucky is saying here. Hold on. He's talking about impeaching Trump. This is the lead in. So let's play a little bit of the lead in. And then let's watch our new Paul Revere spring into action. Here we go.
The legislation that passed in 2004 puts a dagger through the heart of this idea that you need unanimous consent for every senator to call back the office.
I'm glad what the Trump protesters did. Take your hands off me. No, you don't need to touch me. I'm talking to this racist anti-Semite. I am glad. I didn't think that the Trumpsters had it in them. I didn't think the conservatives did. But you know what? You racist socialists can dish it out, but you can't take it. And remember this, Adolf Hitler was a socialist. And that's exactly who you follow. You're nothing but a coward. See, you kind of you forget. I actually got sexually excited over it. That's how much I loathe you. That's how much I love what they
Did you hear what she said? I actually got sexually excited over it. That's how much I love you. Oh my God.
And like Nancy Pelosi said, people do what they do. After all, she doesn't care about monuments, and neither do I. And where the First Amendment doesn't say that you have to protest peacefully and politely, as long as there's outrage and unrest in our hearts, there's going to be unrest in these streets. I don't give a shit whether you believe me. You're nothing but a cracker. That's all you are. You're a racist cracker. You can dish out. Look, you've got protection. Why don't you tell them to stand down? Did you tell the Capitol Police to stand down? Did you tell them to stand down? Answer the question. No, stand down.
Did we remove
the police to stand down in Kenosha, Seattle, Portland, Chicago, Boston, New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. And you know what? These Trump supporters are going to go to your house. They're going to go to Pelosi's house. They'll destroy her vineyards. And I will be right there to support them. Don't you say it's enough? Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! This is a racist. He's an anti-Semite. He said if you criticize Obama, you're a racist. But he criticized him against the Iranian deal. Not only are you a racist, Schumer, you're a hypocrite. Take your hands off me. 6 feet. 6 feet. Just no. 6 feet. Stand down. Stand down. Stand down. You can dish it out, but you can't take it. Now you found out you're not immune. Now it's not fun, is it? See, I'm just one voice here right now, but trust me, if you do this to 75 million Americans, try to put us in jail, you're going to have to hire 175 million to guard us. Move back. Move back. Move back. Take your hands off me. Take your hands off me. All right? I'm a transsexual and I'm a gypsy, which makes me a minority of color. Not do it. It's not going to look good for you, Schumer. It's not gonna look-
Did you see how that guy just got way the fuck out of the picture? It was like she just maced him. He's like, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. That was hilarious.
look good. You're nothing but a sellout to the Jews. I'm going
Okay,
we will be at your house. I don't care what you do.
okay. So the bottom line is
Yeah, right. Now, he's been through things like this before, theoretically, but nothing like that. Like, I'm guaranteeing you, he hasn't been through anything like that. And has anyone seen a picture of Yucky's wife? I know, right? He should be used to something like that, but not that way. That is a significant kind of, lose face moment for Chuck Schumer. And there you go. There's your archetypal hero for the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in the sign of Aquarius. God bless her, him, whoever you are. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And I think it's a really interesting reminder, too, for a lot of us that that freedom and liberty and freedom of speech doesn't always look the way that we theoretically think it should. or fall under a category that is sort of politically stamped, sealed, signed, and delivered. Welcome to the Great Conjunction. Thanks for being here. Nothing the devil hates more than to be laughed at. Totally deflates him. Yeah. That could be Chuck. No, that's not Chucky's wife. I'll tell you that right now. No, that is not Chucky's wife. I think Chucky's wife is actually shorter than Chucky, and that woman or person at least as tall. Seems tall. I'm having a hard time saying. Well, I'm telling you that I know the volume. I turned the volume up as high as it could go. She said that he's an anti-Semite, a traitor to the Jews. Did you tell the Capitol Police to stand down? She told the people around her who were obviously trying to get her out of the scene to stand down. She said, stay 6 feet back. She said that 75 million people are not going to take it, that they're going to, hunt down Nancy Pelosi, and they're going to hunt down Schumer, and they're going to burn her vineyards, and I'm going to be right there with them. She called him an anti-Semite and a racist a couple of times, and basically called him out on all this shit. And then she said to the guy who was wanting to remove her that she was a trans, and then she was over 50 or something, which makes her a double minority or something like that. Now get away from me. And he did. It was like she completely maced him. So that's the rough translation of what she said. Minority of color. Yeah, minority of color. That was something, man. I think she something like being an Oreo. To me, this is the moment that is going to define 2021. That moment will define 2021. That person is our new Paul Revere. Yeah. All right. Thanks for being here today. We'll be back tomorrow to continue to unwind the knotty ball of yarn that is our reality. And Friday, we're going to have Wayne McCroy on the Friday Farcast, which should be really good. I'm sure we'll have a really great conversation and be able to go into areas that I think we'll all find quite interesting in terms of mapping so-called reality. Steve says Schumer got transed. Did she say she was a gypsy? I know she said she was a trans. I couldn't make out what else she said, but it made her a double minority. And that guy just like split. That guy, it was fantastic. And remember, she was right in front of Building 777, which is the number of the angels, and that was how old Trump was when he took office. Synchromysticism at its finest. All right, everybody. Love you all. Bye for now. A trans gypsy. There it is. That is the theme for 2021. Trans gypsyism. I love it. She's my new hero. All right. Use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to say what's possible. Hit the like button. And again, I'll be working on moving the operation over to my website and having a big meeting with my web person next Monday to try to sort a lot of stuff out, especially on the scheduling side, the payment side, which has been kind of messed up on the site for a while. So we're going to clear a lot of these things up. It's a new year. It's a new day. It's a new time. And don't give up. Do not go into a demoralized funk. Okay? It's real easy to do it. Do not go there. There are too many wild cards in play. I'll see you guys later. Bye for now.